occasionally I'll dream before business, like before you speak or you have to do something. If you sort of, you dream that like it just goes horribly wrong. And I always have dreams before Business Connect that I just sleep in and sleep through it and just leave everyone hanging, or like there's always like a disaster. Then I'll wake up like really early and nah, thank God. So that happened again last night, which was pretty funny. Anyway, all right, rock and roll. Well, really good to see everyone and welcome all from far and wide, as always. From Jared, who was on early, down in Tassie, all the way up to, and see Liam, Greater Springfield, and crew from everywhere in between. Well, actually, I should say all the way up to Bali, Addy, which is awesome. I actually spoke to someone this week, and they said, "Oh, I'm moving to Darwin, but I'd love to be part of it." And I said, "Oh," and they said, "Oh, it's just pretty early." And Addy, you were my example. I said, "Look, there's a guy that pretty much joins every week from Bali, and he's up well before the sun to get on." So it's pretty cool. Really, really nice to see everyone. Week of leading into Vision Sunday, which is super exciting. I always feel like this time in our church is really significant. Obviously, we know that, we hear that all the time, but something that's always stuck with me has been the example of the Poppets, one of our great families in our city campus here in Sydney, and they run a couple of businesses. They're just great people. I'm going to mute you, Sam. You came off mute there. But great people. But they've always said, and I'd ask them questions, Q&A type settings like this, and I'd say, "What's one of the, how do you guys get vision for your business? How have you built such successful businesses?" And they're like, "Well, we just basically latch onto the vision of our church every year and just build a business under that covering." And always just got to me, like got in my spirit a bit, because I was like, oh wow, first of all, I'm a pastor here and I'm a bit convicted because I haven't really been approaching it with the same faith. And second of all, I'm like, wow, there's actually an incredible opportunity when we attach our lives to the house of God and see that vision and see that, that word that Pastor Brian speaks over our church every year. We take that for ourselves. And yes, we build the house of God first and foremost, but we also build our lives according to that promise. It's pretty awesome. So one of the things I've been thinking about this year for me personally, and I guess it's something the Holy Spirit's been speaking to me about, has been about this year. I guess for a lot of us, we're coming out of a couple of years of just, unexpected, which has been fine. Or I think many of us that we've spoken to have had all sorts of experiences in the midst of that. I've really had in my spirit for this year, for me personally, I'm not assuming this on everyone, but that for me, to what I put into this year in terms of faith, in terms of active faith steps, what I put in, that's what I'm going to see back. That's the type of favor and blessing I'm going to see back into this year. And, I came back from a nice long holiday, obviously a little bit recharged, or very recharged, to be honest, just refreshed, feeling up for it, but also, I've done a few years now, and I've done years where you put a lot in and you just get to the end of the year and you're just ragged. And I feel like the Holy Spirit's been speaking to me about taking active faith steps this year, putting in, sowing, and what I do sow, I'm going to reap, but doing so in a way that I'm also going through the year with a sense of wellness, sense of health. I'm not burning myself out just for business or for endeavors, but I'm doing it all well. And I wanted to today, a lot of these mornings, I've said it before, I'll say it again, but I really try and create mornings that I'm, as a business person, going to find helpful. So today I wanted to have a discussion with 3 people, host a bit of a panel, if you like, and talk about really being, and excuse the cheesy name, but being fit to flourish. So how do we set ourselves up this year? Like, let's believe that this is going to be like that scripture that we've been seeing in some of the promo for Vision Sunday. I think it was Luke 4:19. Let's declare the year of the Lord's favor. Let's believe that for our lives, for our businesses, and let's go in with an anticipation that we're going to work to that end. But as well, let's do it and let's set ourselves up in a way that we're going to be fit to flourish. We're going to do it well. We're going to finish the race, so to speak, and anyway, three incredible people that part of this group is part of the fabric of our community, our church, from all different walks of life. And look, I just chose three people whose perspectives it would be great to hear, because they each bring a very different perspective. They're at a different, in a different field, in a different stage of life. And I just thought it'd be cool to hear them. So I'll quickly introduce them. And then we'll just jump into the conversation, if that's all right. And just want to dig in and ask questions. And by the way, as always, if you chuck a question on the chat, I'll weave it into the conversation as best as I can, which would be great. But I'll just describe each of these people quickly. First is Andrew Beveridge. You definitely might know his face if you're sort of looking at the faces on the screen. Andrew. Well, first and foremost, before we talk about what Andrew does, Andrew's just a great encourager. He's the type of guy that I just feel like, to me, is just a really good encourager. He's always encouraging me. Him and his wife Fiona, they're raising a fabulous family. I think you've got three boys, Andrew. Raising a fabulous family down there in Melbourne, a tremendous heart for God, for his house, for people. That's one thing that anytime I've spoken to Andrew or heard him share, just his heart for people and his heart for the house of God is so evident. So look, he's a guy he's measured, he's very intelligent, but also just comes across really humble. And when you're talking to Andrew, you feel like he's one of those people that just makes you're the focus of his attention, and you really you're talking, if you're having a conversation with Andrew, like, he is so interested in what you have to say. You matter, like, he's really engaged, and you just feel, oh wow, this guy is just the real deal. And then you understand how much wealth of knowledge, experience, and expertise he has. It's just humbling that someone like that would be paying such just genuine attention in you. So it's pretty cool. But Andrew's a psychologist. He has decades of experience in leadership development and coaching, and really looking forward to some of the practical things he's going to share with us this morning. Second person we're going to have involved in this conversation is Shannon Kelly. Again, you guys very likely would know Shannon. Shannon and Gabe are just absolute favourites. Based now here at the Hills campus. I've been with our church for many, many years, from city campus. Did a long season helping get our New York church up and off the ground. Spent years there with the young family, which just that alone, that thought would just stress me out. But look, she's just an upbeat person. She shows a lot of humility. She expresses a lot of vulnerability in how she does life. Yet one conversation with Shannon, you realize she is such a capable person. And I think she showed that in what she's been able to build in her life in regards to family, business. And I'll just say one thing about Shannon: if you even feel like she's a tough person, you feel like she's even 1% in your corner, then it's like you just feel stronger because of that. You're like, oh, it's just someone you want in your corner. And even if you feel that in the littlest way, it just brings so much strength and encouragement to your life. So appreciate you, Shannon. And last but definitely not least, screen name is Moles, but goes by Muller Solomon. He's a great guy. So I'd say about Moles, when I think of Moles, I just think of faithful man, a guy of conviction, guy of his word. He's the type of guy, if you say to someone, oh, do you know Moles? They'll never be like, oh yeah, I know Moles. They'll have to say something good about him, because that's the type of guy he is. It's just like, oh, Moles, he's such, and I don't want to say, I was almost going to say, you never hear anything bad about him, but it's more like people can't talk about him without adding a compliment to just his faithfulness, to the man of integrity that he is. He's got a young son who I think has been a bit off this week, a little bit crook. So, mate, thank you for getting up early, and I know what it's like. So thank you for being part of it. But look, he's a business owner, runs one, maybe two businesses, which you can speak to, and is just a fantastic guy, growing a family, growing a business, faithfully serves in church every weekend. And pleasure to have you guys with us. So welcome. Just quickly, I might get Andrew. Andrew, do you just want to jump off mute and just say hello, just so people can find you, see you there?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Great to see everyone.
Yeah, great to see you. Now, thanks for you gave me some tips. So last time you spoke, I was like, Andrew, you've just got the best setup there, video quality and everything, and you gave me some good advice. So thank you. I appreciate it. You've got the senior set up again. I'm like, yes, I absolutely love it. Great to have you. Shannon, do you just want to say a quick hello?
Yeah. Hi, guys. Nice to be with everybody today. hopefully I'm off mute. All good.
Yeah, you're good. You're rolling. Great to have you, Shannon. And Miles, how's the little one going, mate? Is he feeling better?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, is much better today. It was 39 quite a few times yesterday, this temperature, but today it was 37.5, which was good. It was a relief. It's his first rodeo, so that means it's our first rodeo for us too. So really doing our best to stay calm. But yeah, he's doing well.
Good, man. Really, really good. Now, just quickly, Miles, while I got you, tell us about what area of business are you in, just for people's benefit.
Okay, so I'm in the health and fitness side of things. So I have Rise and Conquer CrossFit, was a CrossFit gym in Blacktown. We've had that for about 7 years now. And from that, I've also grown a recovery clinic upstairs, which was started offering massage, but now moving on over onto physiotherapy as well. That's
awesome. I've actually, when it comes to turning 38 this year, when it comes to just being physically active, more than ever before, I'm understanding the value of recovery. So I look forward to talking about that in all aspects in regards to physically, emotionally, everything today. But yeah, mate, if I don't recover well, my body complains for a long time. So yeah, I love that. Yeah, look forward to having a chat about that in just a moment. But I might get the convo started. Like I mentioned at the start about, this year, us maximizing our potential this year, us doing everything we can to live out what we believe God's called us to, latching into Vision Sunday this weekend and really, I guess, digging deep and believing that it's going to be an excellent year. And we're going to work hard, see God's favor, hopefully poured through our lives and our businesses. Now, as we do that, I guess the question I want to ask the three of you, and, feel free to, jump in. I can nominate someone. We'll just see how it goes. But might even Andrew, if you could speak to it first. Like talking about growing and developing, I think that's going to be a major part of our year. We're only going to increase if we're committed to growth and development and adding value. How would you speak to that? Doing that in a way that's healthy, in a way that we can obviously grow, but we've got responsibilities. We've got things that aren't, sometimes we don't always have space in our lives to grow. How can we do that in a way that's healthy and sustainable for us, in a way that's going to move us forward?
Yeah, for sure, Dan. And look, absolutely. I think, thank you for the intro. So I'm just going to wheel you out at anything I do in the future. That would be fantastic. But I think that, so the first thing is development it's never urgent, right? We never kind of go, oh, wow, I really need to develop now. We might feel those moments where we've got the gap, but it's never something that becomes a priority without us choosing to become a priority. So that means that we need to schedule it. So we really do need to schedule our time around development and invest in that. It's not something that's going to accidentally happen. Having said that, the last few years, so we had an unprecedented 2020, an unprecedented 2021, and now an unprecedented 2022, at which point we should just say, this is all entirely precedented and we should see it coming, right? Because every year is just crazy in a slightly different way. But I think the key is to never waste a crisis. So I hear in some of the language that people use, it's like, oh, I can't wait for it to get back to normal and then my business will be able to do this, or when this changes, I'll be able to do that. I think it's really about grabbing the moment that we have in time right now. I mean, it's a classic kind of James, 1, 2 to 4 sort of thing about how these tough times actually produce character. They actually help us to become more like Christ. And that's one of the key things that we're on earth to do, right? Is to become more like Jesus and develop character. And if I look at it from the leadership research side, the times when people grow the most in their leadership, it's challenging assignments. So deep end of the pool stuff. It's hardships, really tough stuff that we learn a lot through that. And it's in relationships and community. So if I was looking at trying to develop, I would spend a lot of time reflecting on what have I learned through these last three couple of years, rather than going, why God, saying, where are you in this, God? Like, what are you trying to develop in me through this? And I think thirdly, it's the importance of relationships and connection. And I think that's been, if you look at kind of the enemy's agenda over the past couple of years, it's like, if we can rip all these people out of community, that's a pretty good tactic to destroy well-being, flourishing, development. And so we really need to work actively against that, because again, it's going to take a little work to rebuild that. So that would be my kind of top of my mind thoughts around that, Dan.
Love that, Andrew. No, thank you so much, gold there. And I was, I'm like, you're saying good. I'm glad I'm recording this because I'm like half taking notes, trying to listen and absorb, and then think about, follow-on questions. It's so good. I love it. Hey, Shannon, one of the things that you've got as part of, I guess, your business mantra, and you might be able to reframe it correctly for everyone here, but I actually love it. By the way, I'll mention to anyone, if you're on Instagram, Shannon is just a great follow. Like, I find she just brings you into her world, her life. And I find it as a business owner, someone that's running a family, I actually find it really helpful because it sort of takes some of the pressure off. But one of your statements is like anti-hustle. And you're someone that's really committed to growth. We discussed with you last year, you've had a big growth year in your business and some of the opportunities that have come. But what about for you? You're obviously someone that's always growing, developing. How do you do that? Do you want to maybe speak to that anti-hustle mindset a little bit, or approach? And from your perspective, what's that look like?
Yeah, honestly, to follow on after Andrew, a little intimidating because it was gold, but I agree with everything he talked about. I think for me, I went through a real refining season because in my business, I love what I do. And if I'm not careful, I can just work and work and work and work because I love what I do. But I feel like, well, I know for a fact that God doesn't call us to hustle and to strive and to live in a way that is unsustainable. And so for me, for a number of years ago, I just got a conviction that God kept speaking to me about rest and the importance of rest and working from a place of rest. And so for me in my business, I have to be intentional about, like Andrew talked about, structuring my day, looking at my year. And it's not even a case of necessarily going, what do I want to do this quarter, or what do I want my week to look like? But in all honesty, you've got to look at your business and your life from this holistic point of view, because you are not your business. And so if we approach our lives as though everything, like the most important thing in our life is our business, we're going to burn out, because that's going to be constantly us doing. And so for me, I had to look at who I want to be, as opposed to what do I want to do. And if you can scale out to that kind of maxi view and go, okay, so I want to be somebody that prioritizes time with my kids. I want to be someone that values health and well-being. So I prioritize running in my calendar, etc. And before I even start my work week, I look at my schedule and I prioritize the things that I need to be able to do my life well. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if I'm thriving personally, holistically, then everything I touch, my family, my business, that's also going to have that knock-on effect, and it's going to thrive because of that, rather than me going, I need to work in my business and I need to do everything, and then everything else comes a distant second. So it's just kind of flipping how you see what's important.
I love that, G. I mean, both Pete and I wrote there in the chat, who I want to be versus what I want to do. I think, wow, that's that really struck a chord with me. Thank you. And by the way, sorry, I would definitely be intimidated going after Andrew as well. But that was absolutely gold, Shannon. Thank you. And that's something I really do get from you a lot. I think in a lot of the stuff you're putting out is you're very comfortable, first of all, in your own skin, but you're also I think you're embodied, like you're trying to be a great wife, a great mom. You're trying to create great experiences. And that's something I really glean a lot from you. But as well, then you're doing incredible things. So I'm really curious to keep understanding that and I guess gaining more of that in my own life. Look, one thing, and Miles, I'm going to throw to you for this one. I know for myself, I actually mentioned it before a little bit in terms of recovery. One of the things I probably struggle with a bit at the moment is like physically, like I'm trying to stay on top of my physical health. I'm trying to, work out, stay fit and all of that. Sometimes emotionally I might be good and mentally I might be good, but physically I'm just run down. This year, what would you say? I mean, you can answer it from not just the physical side. Obviously, you're building a business, you're doing a whole heap of things here, but preempting burnout, like avoiding burnout this year, what would you say? Like I'm wanting to go for it, but that's been a struggle of mine, like almost physically burning out. How could we maybe approach this year in a way to try and avoid that?
Okay, well, look, it's February, start of the year. It's a lot of people want to get into fitness. Usually it dies down around this time, but I think because of COVID going a little bit longer. The thing is, when people get started, people get so excited and they want to do everything. So they want to improve everything all at once. And most of the time when so many things are happening, people aren't going to stick or hold on to anything. So my suggestion is to always, it's not the answer that people want to hear. People are expecting from magic programs or just magic supplements or this something that's magical that they can get into that they will feel given the development or the progress, but it all goes back down to just simple things. So generally I will suggest people to start, just if you don't train at all, set a time once or twice a week and you commit to that. And once you progress from there, let's go 3 days. In regards to recovery, if you're doing too much too soon, what's considered in fitness is progressive loading. If you're doing too much and your body's not used to recovering from that much work, then you're going to be run down. And I find in regards to the gym, the longest members that we've had are the ones who take it easy, don't consider every single session, just like what Shannon Kelly preaches, not to have 100% session every single time. I think there's a very glorified, highlighted mindset also in the gym space where no pain, no gain. So you have to hurt every single time for it to be considered a good session. Oftentimes, I'm always trying to help people to change their mindset in regards to fitness, that if you're, I'll give you an example. What is the best way to prepare for, say, a boxing fight? If you go 100% trying to get into fight every single day, you're not going to last the end of the week. But a boxer, the best way that they would prepare for a fight would be to work on one part in 1 week or 1 day, and then slowly increase progress. At the end of the week, or the back end of the week, they might have a lighter session and then pick it up again. So it's this progressive loading where you start low, go up a little bit, recover, go up a little bit higher and recover. So in regards to business development, I think it goes back to that as well. You can't just suddenly start do everything all at once, because then that easily leads to burnout every single time.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice, mate. And in terms of that recovery side, like even just physically, I guess for someone that's trying to, they might just even be walking in the morning, but doing some sort of exercise in and amongst their day, what recovery to work ratio, is there any guidelines or any principles around that you could just speak to briefly?
Okay. It always starts with what your body's capable of. So if you've never run 5Ks, then maybe start 3 and give it about at least a day to recover from that and then go from there. There's also something called active recovery, which is moving to increase blood flow through your system, because if blood is flowing through your system, your body is recovering. However, if you tip over to working and causing stress for your body instead, then now your body's got more to recover from. Whereas active recovery is something as simple as walking. So say if you just started getting back into training, then one day have a more strenuous exercise session. The next day, active recovery means go for a 1 hour or 30-minute walk. So it's always about starting small and then building up from there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, walking sometimes just a game changer. I mean, even just for your, I find just for your headspace and just, I just love to walk and think and sometimes listen to music or pray. Like it really is. I noticed Jody wrote in the chat, like having a walk at the start of every day has been a game changer for her. And I think, yeah, so important. Thanks, Moles. Shannon, for you, do you just, I guess, want to speak to personally, what's it look like over the years for you trying to set yourself up to avoid burnout, especially when you're chasing after big things like big business opportunity or whatever it might be?
Yeah, look, it's definitely been a journey. As I said, I think in the early days, when I started my business, I didn't know what I was meant to do. I didn't know. Hadn't studied business. As a rookie, everyone starts with this idea of what business is supposed to look like. So I definitely, in the early days, you look on Instagram and you hear people saying you have to hustle. Like if you're not working 24 hours a day, then you're not a real business person. If you don't believe, if you don't work hard enough, you don't believe in it, you're never going to get anywhere. So I definitely, in my early days, subscribed to that. And I definitely started to hit the wall. Because I had young kids when I started my business as well, I worked around their school schedule, but oftentimes that then meant that when I put the kids to bed at 7 o'clock, that meant that I would then continue to work until about sometimes midnight, because I'm a night owl and I love the night hours. But I had to I realized then that then the next day I'd get up in the morning and I was exhausted, and I was just living at a constant pace of exhaustion because I never actually had any rest factored into my day. So I remember reading a book called The 5 a.m. Club, and it is challenging. If anyone wants to read it, like, it's a really good read just to kind of help you see a different way of thinking. You don't have to necessarily get up at 5 a.m. to do it, but the principles around it were that the earliest times of the morning are the best times for you to be able to have headspace, get your body ready, get your head ready for the day. And so I just went, I knew something had to change. So I just went, look, let's give it a try. And I used to get up at 5 a.m. I was living in Balmain at the time. So I'd ride down to the harbour and I watched the sunrise over the harbour bridge. And then it sounds all very like, wow, but and then I would go and do a Pilates class. And then I would get an hour's worth of work in before my kids would wake up. And then by the time I got home to take them to school and get them ready for the day, I was already in a good place because I'd gotten my most urgent things over the line for the day and I'd exercised. And then the rest of the day didn't feel so intense. And I think what that shifted was it meant that I didn't then work nighttime. So I was able to then reclaim nights for my reading, personal development, things that I actually just really enjoyed doing. And that intention around actually ordering my day. And I will say I'm a night owl by nature. I love staying up late, but I had to make choices because I knew that just because I was a night owl, it wasn't actually serving me. It wasn't serving my business. And I had to make a choice to actually change my structure of my days so that it would serve me. And so that's actually played a really key part in terms of not actually working nights as much. I try not to do it anymore. I every now and again I'll slip in because I enjoy it, but and maybe Gabe's out, for example. But that's been a really key part in just being able to prioritize rest and the right things before my day even starts.
Yeah, that's really cool. Structuring your day to serve you. I think that really sticks with me. Actually, yeah, I've noticed as well, like I had to, a couple of years ago, I had to make an active decision not to work at night because it just overstimulated my brain. And for me, I just wouldn't get good sleep and I'd end up waking up in the middle of the night more often thinking about work. But if I finished my work day, did dinner, did family time, and then just didn't work, and sometimes it was inconvenient but I just had to get up early the next morning, it just changed the way I slept. So for me personally, doing the morning thing's been a huge help. Andrew, what would you say to the recovery time, sort of speaking to recovery from your experience and your point of view?
Yeah, so I think you took 5 weeks annual leave, didn't you, Dan, over Christmas, thanks to my advice there. So I hope that worked out well for you. So look, I'm a big fan. I know Shannon, I saw on Shannon's Instagram, she does a similar thing. Like taking a decent break is, particularly with younger kids, is just golden. So I'm a big fan of quantity time with your kids. Like people talk about quality time. I actually think it's rubbish. Like the amount of time you spend doing different things is a real indicator of where your heart and your effort is. And that's seasonal, right? So like I worked in management consulting for a while and that was just flat out. It was flat out, really busy, always busy. Didn't maybe have the same control over my calendar that I do now. But the recovery time is really important. So I think being attuned to what's going on with your body and your brain through the day. So our attention, for example, just changes in its nature through the day. So for most people in the morning, we're pretty focused and we can really do disciplined, detailed work. That's most people. Some people have the opposite sort of, it's the end of the day for them. So it can vary, but for most people, that start of the day is when we can do that. Oftentimes, that's when we fritter that away on meetings and just stuff that actually doesn't require a lot of mental energy and attention. So I'd look at actually structuring your day. Absolutely recommend go and join Miles's boot camp. Like as a psychologist, the best psychologists I've met are trainers. Like they really know their stuff. And I think exercise at the start of the day, like doing something that's a bit strenuous at the start of the day is really important. And doing that in nature is actually really helpful as well. So building that in and further to what Shannon said, making that like a decision that you make at the start, not a decision you make every day. So if you have to make that decision each and every day, it's really hard. But like I went for a run this morning. I genuinely didn't decide to go for a run. I was just found myself on the footpath because it's a habit and a routine. So I think building in those routines, but being attuned to that cycle through the day. So in the dip, we get around lunch, you know, you're going to be a bit spacey. Take some time away from your desk. Breaks every 90 minutes at work. I'm a big fan of about 15-minute break every 90 minutes. Afternoon, you get a little bit of a kick up again, but your brain is less critical at that point, typically for most people again. So you can do some more creative thinking towards the end of the day, but guard that high attention phase, wherever that is in your day, like guard that as much as you can, and don't fill it with emails, meetings, admin. Just kick that stuff to the end of the day. Don't ever eat at your desk. Don't ever do lunch at your desk, and don't fire up the computer after you finish up your day. It's just not productive. Like I've never met anyone that second shift actually works for. Lots of people do it. It takes a lot longer to get anything done. So you might spend an hour and a half in front of your laptop, in front of the TV, kind of half watching The Bachelor or whatever, but you could probably knock over in 10 minutes the next morning. So just shut the laptop, get rid of it, go for a walk.
I love that. But to be honest, I just felt like the way you said a couple of things there just gave sense of permission, you know, like to take a long, like I love how you said quantity time, not just quality time. Like that quantity time, we might have spoken briefly about it, but it was a game changer for me, like in regards to my relationship with my family and kids and everything like that. So that's cool. Now, I should ask you, Andrew, is balance, like this concept of balance, you know, I hear different views on that. Like, is that a realistic thing? Like, what would you say to that?
I think it's a myth, to be honest. So I think work-life balance is because it's talking about our work and the rest of our life in a competing notion, right? But so in the way that we frame it and define it, it's like our work is competing against the rest of our life. So we're sort of going, I have my life, but I'm going to segment work off as something special and different. Equally, I think work-life integration, which is what a lot of people push, I reckon that's pretty challenging as well, right? Because I don't necessarily want my Sunday mornings to be my business or whatever. So I think I view it more seasonally, and I think I'm more comfortable with that. I think as human beings, it's pretty difficult to hold a steady point on anything. We tend to operate by swinging back and forth. And so I think it's okay to have seasonal focuses where we might go, in this season, this is a season to focus on, you know, this part. I'm actually going to put a bit more into the work or in this season, I'm going to put more into family. But you don't ever want that to swing too wide either way. But I do think, look, there's a lot of people peddling all sorts of ideas around work-life integration and things like that. Most of them, I think if you dig under it, I don't know. I think you got to, like, life's more than an Instagram post. You got to be able to sustain it over time. And that's what I like about, you know, people like Miles and Shannon, is that they've done it over time. So you want to listen to those people, not the people who've gone, you know, I've flown my private jet to Santorini and life's awesome. Of course it's awesome, right? But you got to fund that somehow, and where's your family and everything else. So that would be my sense, is you've got to make it sustainable, but you've also just view it with the season. So our season at the moment, we've got teenage sons. We're investing pretty heavily into service leadership on a Sunday morning and other things like that, and connect groups and stuff. But we get so much out of that as well. So it's not, even in the service, even in the giving out, there's often stuff coming back to you as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. Again, really great perspectives. Look, I might throw to Mull's and or Shannon, either of you guys or both of you guys just back to back want to jump in and speak to this. For you guys personally, what does it look like to just thrive in your own skin, just to be comfortable and content with who you are and to thrive as yourself in everything that you're building in life? What does that look like for you guys?
I'll jump in. Sorry, I accidentally hit the unmute button. Yeah, look, that can be a challenge for all of us. I think, first of all, it comes down to actually knowing the way you're wired, knowing who you are, the things that matter, the gifts that God's given you as well, and actually being a good steward of all of that. I know for me personally, I got saved in our church when I was in my early 20s. And so for me, the example of godly women, for the most part, looked like women on staff at our church. So I tried to, like, I went through Bible college. My husband and I, we were in ministry for a number of years. We went to New York and started New York. And I think for me, I loved it. I loved building and I loved people. And so for me, I was like, well, I'm going to be in ministry. And I didn't have any idea that there was any sort of entrepreneurial business area in my life. I just thought that, no, I'm going to be in ministry. And then when we came back from New York, I felt like God really shut the door and I didn't know why. And I was frustrated. And I think I just kept trying to fit in a box, or I kept trying to think that I needed to be this to, kind of get the tick of approval from God, or even for me, for my satisfaction. Like, I thought life needed to look like this for me to thrive. And in all honesty, it was only when I started to really take steps and do things within a business framework, I realized that there was so much more. And I had a couple of people who were further down the line actually speak to that and speak to the potential, and almost kind of help nudge me forward in that area and say that it's not just about business. Sorry, it's not just about ministry, but actually my business is my ministry. And it's by putting boundaries in place around who I want to be and how I want to live, and almost breaking that mold, breaking the expectations and the boxes that I thought I'd put on who I had to be, and actually really being comfortable with going, well, actually, I really love this stuff, or I really love living like this and speaking like this and pushing in this direction. Even though I didn't really have anyone modeling it for me, I had to go and find those people that actually spoke to the things that were in my heart as well. So it can be a challenge, actually, being comfortable with who you are, and comfortable with who God's created you to be. But ultimately, God has something really unique for each one of us. And I think when we can lean into Jesus and to the Holy Spirit and listen to the things that he wants for us, that's when we start to flourish. Because if we keep living our lives like a cookie cutter mold, like everybody else, whether that's in church, whether that's in other businesses, and we create our lives as like little mimics of what they are, we actually rob the world of what God has intended for them. And so it can be scary stepping out and living that really authentic life. But ultimately, you will be so much more fulfilled when you have, when you give yourself permission to lean into it. But also what God will do through your life is so much more as well. So I highly recommend it. It's a scary journey, but it's definitely one well worth actually undertaking.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Brilliant. Miles, what would you say to that?
So I wasn't born in Australia, so we migrated here when I was 9. So I grew up quite shy, having to learn a new language, being surrounded by new people, and a whole lot of those things. So I was very shy, and it was very hard for me to be comfortable in my own skin because I felt I was different, and at the same time I had to catch up and all those things with coming with migrating. But also from there, I developed thinking that there was certain templates that I had to work towards, just like what Shannon was saying, for me to be successful or to be progressing. But I think learning that God is a creative God, and that God has made me to be a creative, and I'll get ideas all the time. And I think once I started accepting those and understanding that the reason I'm creative is for me to be developing solutions, and really accepting that helped me to accept myself, that I don't have to look like a certain person. I don't have to shape my life to be the way certain person shapes their life. I don't have to do anything exactly as how someone else is doing it. It doesn't have to look like what someone else's looks like. Once I really understood and accepted that, and I saw the beauty of my life and what it could be. Going back to God being a creative, and me understanding that I'm a creative person too. So I'd go back to that for people who are struggling to find their position, or struggling to be comfortable in their own skin, is to accept your individuality, because from there, God can make new things. God can come up with new things. That's what I myself with in regards to that.
I love that. Like hearing both of you share, just such a reminder. Sometimes there's not like, because if maybe there's not a model of what you want to be, taking the path that you took, you self-disqualify. But I love that both of you have just living examples of people that have had to trailblaze, and you just, I guess, directed that question at you because you both seem so comfortable in your own skin and seem to be doing so well. Look, sometimes you hear people say, people be like, oh, you go speak to people, you go to an aged care home and ask them, what's your advice? And, you hear them say, oh, don't, live in a way that you don't have regret. So you hear different advice around that, building a regret-free life. Andrew, I might throw to you to start off as a final question. So feel free to add any context to the broader topic or discussion we're having as well. But building a regret-free life, what would you say to that I guess ambition?
Yeah, I guess, look, if we look at the research around that, a lot of it boils down to relationships. So that's really the key. I think the longitudinal studies of the people who have kind of had the most fulfilled lives, it's about relationships, because that's how we're created, right? We're created to be in relationship, and that goes right back to Garden of Eden stuff, right? So I think the relationship side is just so crucial. And it's one of the things that we have, in a church community. It's one of the things that we offer is community. It should be something that people can easily become a part of and want to get involved. And it's funny, even in secular research, it would say that one of the basic human needs we have is to be supported and belong, but also to help others. Like, we're actually wired, even the social psychologists would tell us that we're wired to help others. So I would always go, like, if you want to look after your mental health and well-being, sleep, diet, exercise, but connections with other people, really important. And just build on those, and you'll have that invested back into you. That community is really crucial. So, and look, I'm turning 50 this year, right? I think you get to a point where it feels like it's harder to make friends, and I think you just work on it, right? Just ask people to catch up, and people are very generous, and they'll do that. They're probably looking for the same thing, just a bit shy. So that would be my final tip.
Make 50 look very good, Andrew. What about, I guess, Shannon, Moles? Look, would there be any final words to sort of close with this? But yeah, for you, building a regret-free life, is any thoughts or anything you'd like to add there? Go for it, Miles.
All right, I'll go for it. It's funny that you talk about, so I've got a 10-month-old now, so I've been reading a book on raising boys in 21st century, and it's just helps me to the way I used to think, and then just maturing. I'm thinking now, oh man, I wish I didn't think that way, or there's all those things. But at the same time, with what Andrew was talking about at the start in regards to the difficulty now in waiting for opportunities to come once COVID is over, I think viewing hardships and viewing things that you've grown from, for me, certain mentalities, I think viewing them as stepping stones rather than something that held me back, rather than something that stopped what could have been. I think those views and those things are only going to hold me back even further. So when I take on things now, my view is that it's a growing step. It might not be a great step, but it's something that brings me back further to the next part. Brings me back to a story from my grandpa. So my grandpa told me the story of, he would know that one of my cousins would come over every single time, because if he goes to the backyard, every single stone is turned because he's looking for worms. So I tell you that because I would look for every single stone, every solution, to find that solution to get him to where he wants to be, or to find that worm. And I think with how I viewed difficulties, hardships, or my previous mindsets, whatever it is, I view them as stepping stones. I view them as turning stones, looking for what it is that I want to get to.
I absolutely love that. What a cool analogy to close on. And hey, I want to thank the three of you guys. I know Q&A just goes so quick every time, right? I just want to thank you. Each one of you guys just invested so much gold into us. So we appreciate you. If you could please make the guys feel appreciated on the chat. Yeah, love you all. And hey, let me pray for us as a group quickly, just as we head into this really significant weekend. Father, thank you so much for everything that first of all, you've just brought us together, first and foremost in relationship with you, Lord, but secondly, in relationship with each other through this incredible church. And I just thank you for the 3 people that shared with us this morning. Just pray your blessing on them, Father. I pray that truly it'll be you. We proclaim the year of your favor over their lives and over everyone that's joined this morning. Lord, we just pray for this weekend in our church. We pray it's really significant. I pray that us as people who contribute to the house of God, also in our workplace, in the marketplace, Lord, that you would give us fresh vision as part of your kingdom, Lord, that we truly would see your kingdom come. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Well, bless you guys. Much love to you all. Can't wait to see you in church. If there's anything we can do to serve you, bring you into a relationship community, just reach out. Always here for you. But yeah, have a great close to your week. Take care.